Hello everyone, my name is Mark Maslar. I am a tutor at the Reading Writing Center, and today we're going to be going over plagiarism and how to avoid it. So we have the PowerPoint. I'll be going over this through video, and with that, I have my notes and this awesome PowerPoint. Let's go. So everyone gets that feeling where we're trying to create an awesome essay with a great story in order to feel this sense of victory that we're going to be on top of our classes and feel great. And with that, it comes its beauty in trying to create a sense that we know what we're talking about. I mean, that's what we want. Something that can create a great picture in the minds of our teachers and to help them just see that we deserve the A. But in order to get to the other side of that and to come from where we start with brainstorming and get to the other end with this great essay, we will also be facing the frustration of not knowing how to start or how to word different things. And as a result, sometimes we come across plagiarism. We should always avoid plagiarism. I mean, here we have this little comic, and of course, it seems a little overdramatic. I mean, copying people's stuff. Like, what does plagiarism even mean? But it's something that is a lot more important than we think, especially in the professional world. And with us being in academia or in the university, we should be able to understand plagiarism and how we should avoid it. So that way, when we get into the professional world, we know how to create content that is ours, being honest and ethical. So before we go into that, I want you all to know that for this lesson, we will be using the Lester's Guide for Writing Research Papers. This is an English 315 textbook, and it provides a lot of good hints on plagiarism, as well as using different references such as the MLA style, APA style, and other different things that you should need for your classes. It's the one that I use for my English 315 class for Dr. Han, and it's very suitable for this class. And that's one example about how we're going to avoid plagiarism. But before going into that, we want to know the definition of plagiarism. Plagiarism is also known as the misuse of sources. It's taking someone else's words or ideas without giving proper credit. And this can be both intentional and unintentional. So what do I mean by that? So in some cultures, imitation or copying is the best way to honor the original writer. However, writing associations like the MLA, APA, etc., they see this as a sign of unprofessionalism because you're copying someone else's words dishonestly and using them. As a result, they usually discredit people who take words from other people. And as a result, the school or most universities in the world try to reflect this attitude by introducing students to the idea that you cannot get by copying other people's works. Or else when you get into the professional world, you'll be in a lot more trouble than just getting a bad assignment grade. So with that, knowing that there are always going to be times where you don't know whether or not you're plagiarizing or not, especially if you're new to this and new to using quotation marks or citations. And so sometimes you have it unintentionally. And as a result, you might not be using the right citation or anything. Here you go, just to make sure you could see it. So you might be missing the proper citation, or you don't even know if you're paraphrasing correctly. But in any other case, you should learn never to take from someone else's writing. Even if you think that their writing is great, or that you think that it is even better than any way that you could write it, it is better to write it the way you can than to write it based on what someone else said. And that's the end of it, So with that, there's a lot of information here. I'm going to move around my screen just so you can see everything on the presentation. So this presentation, you can stop at any time and look at the video, take down notes. So if anything, I won't go over everything. These points are very basic. You want to be able to document or cite anything that has an idea from someone else, whether it's quoted or paraphrased or even summarized. Then make sure that all factual information that you use, it's not common nature. Because say, for example, knowing that Michael Jordan is a basketball star is not exactly something that you need to quote somebody on. It's pretty well known. And then after that, whenever you read an article or a book or any other source and they use the same exact wording or this type of phrase that perfectly summarizes what their research is about, don't copy it. Don't just use that same word or phrase. Use quotation marks. And with that, let's go into a little more about what you don't need to document or reference in your presentation or your writing assignments. Mostly this has to do with common knowledge. So understanding, does your reader know the study as a common read? Like, say, for example, if you're talking about Little Albert in psychology, or you're talking about a recent study conducted by the New York Times, does the audience you're reaching out to know about this study? And is it a common article? Is the term that's being used common knowledge for them? Maybe neuroscientific discovery or a different kind of hypothetical term might be common to someone in the neuroscience field, but it might not be for somebody who is just starting in college. So knowing the difference between those two, then after that, is it obvious that what you're writing is from a book, or if it is just being written by someone else? You always want to make sure that if there's any question on whether or not it's from you or the article, it's better to quote it word by word than to just put it out there. And with that, easy facts and then birthdays and full names, they don't necessarily need a quote. So more examples like that can be seen on this checklist, and you can pause it in order to see. So going on from these points, we want to be able to easily understand how to avoid plagiarism. And this was passed down to me. It's a code word called DUI. And so this acronym means to define, use your sources, and make intelligent citations. So with that, you want to be able to define what style your teacher is using. For some people, that's APA, MLA, Chicago. You want to make sure that you ask your teacher, because even tutors like us at the Reading Writing Center, we cannot give you every answer to every question you need, because sometimes your teacher has one very specific interpretation in mind. And the best way in order to get to that is by asking them. Next, use your sources. Use all kinds of resources. These are just a few different examples. You have podcasts, documentaries, online videos, conference presentations, books, magazines, newspapers, websites. They're all out there. Just make sure that you study them out. Find the main point. Use them. Use them in your research. And by doing so, you come off as even better. You know, one of the problems that a lot of students have is understanding how they can document their sources, yet they also don't know what's so important about using the sources. So say, for example, when you don't cite or reference a source, you lose out on a certain positive tone that you get from quotations. A lot of students who might make quotes show that they did their research. They show that they have this other resource that they're using to show they know about what they're talking about. And so as a result, using your sources is one of the best things that you can do for an essay or any writing assignment. So in order to make sure that you're doing it right, you want to make sure that you and your reader perfectly understand when your quote, your paraphrase or indirect quote begins by introducing the idea. Then use quotation marks for all quoted material, key phrases and sentences. It's not just, even if it's just a word. If it's the same word that a certain researcher is using for their study, then use it. Next, paraphrase with your own words and style. Don't copy a thing. You want to make sure that the reader cannot sense that you're copying anything from the article. Yes, you're going to have the same meaning, the same kind of subject, but don't copy what the author was writing. Find your way. And then follow the standards for MLA, APA as set apart by your teacher. And that includes making a works cited page. So just to give you a quick reminder, a direct quote is when you go through and use the exact words of a quote, word by word, exactly as it's written, and you put in quotes and paste it into your work. Next, paraphrasing. You can use your words to describe what someone else has been saying. That's perfectly fine, as long as you do it in your words. Now, this is an example of a direct quote in the MLA style, where they talk about this one quote, and then it has the parenthetical citation at the end with the last name and the page number. If you could use this as an example for MLA formatting, it will get you through a lot of your different assignments. If you don't use a book, you wouldn't use the page number. Say if it was online, it would just be McGrath instead of McGrath 40. Then this is another case. If you have a works cited page, this is a great way in order to ensure that you're not plagiarizing. Anything that's missing, whether it's proper formatting, or works cited, well, a works cited page, or even a works cited, well, a bibliography is the best word, sorry. So knowing how and when to use these kinds of outlines or cited pages, and then using your quotation marks, citations, parenthetical citations, those all make for a great essay or a great assignment. But if anything's missing, that constitutes plagiarism. So this is an idea of APA formatting, and this is using the same article that we talked about earlier with MLA formatting. But with APA, it focuses more on the year. So when you have the last name, let's move this out of the way. So when you go through, and for an APA formatted essay, you want to be able to have the year. So it'd be McGrath 2019. And APA formatting also uses a comma if you have the last name with the year for the parenthetical citation. So keep that in mind. And you can use these as examples, but just know that the second example here with pollution doesn't have the parentheses in them. So make sure that you can follow the example from the MLA to understand how you can use the quotation marks with the parenthetical citation here. Now, last but not least, I know that there's not a perfect answer for everything, and that there are going to be a lot of different examples of references and things that you can find in the library, online, that can help you to get the exact answer you're looking for to understand what kind of format should I use for a newspaper that I found online or something like that. These are a few stops that you can go to. It's the reference sections of the Reading Writing Center, and that could be under the reference section for MLA style, for APA style, or even in the hands out section under documentation. Okay, now this is our last note, but know that the school and a lot of the teachers use Turnitin.com. Turnitin.com is a service provided to many different school programs that allows teachers to take in the papers that are downloaded onto their websites or sent in through their students, and to run them through a database that will then compare it to other papers across the internet and in different archives to make sure that you're not copying. Don't copy, guys. If you need to, summarize and put it in your own words or quote it, but find the right way and don't copy their ideas. At the end of the day, the best thing they can do is be honest and be original. So with that, this is how you avoid plagiarism and write your great story. Thank you, and have a great day.